The alarm rang at 5:30 a.m. sharp. It was shrill, insistent, a call to life itself. But like so many mornings before, Anthony Scaramucci's hand drifted toward the snooze button. For a few minutes, the world could wait. Dreams could stretch a little longer. But each time he hit that button, a thought nagged at him: how many dreams in life are quietly killed the same way, not with a dramatic failure, but with a quiet delay? It was a question Brian Klaas, a political scientist and writer, had been wrestling with too. His studies of leadership, systems, and human behavior always circled back to one truth: small habits shape big destinies. Nations crumble not just from wars, but from neglected cracks in their foundations. People fall short not because they lack ambition, but because they convince themselves there will always be tomorrow. That morning, when Anthony and Brian sat across from each other for their conversation on Open Book, the subject wasn't just alarms or mornings. It was life itself, and how often we choose the snooze button over action. Anthony leaned forward, his voice carrying the rawness of someone who had tasted both triumph and humiliation. You know, Brian, I used to think missing one opportunity wasn't a big deal. That there'd be another one. But the truth is, sometimes there isn't. In politics, in business, in relationships, if you wait too long, the window closes. Brian nodded, remembering countless interviews he had done across the globe, from villagers in Madagascar to politicians in Washington. That's the dangerous comfort of delay, he said. It feels harmless. But the cost is invisible until it's too late. The conversation turned into something deeper, more personal. Anthony shared the story of a friend who dreamed of starting a company. He had ideas, passion, even investors waiting, but he kept delaying, always promising he'd do it next year. When the financial crisis hit, that chance was gone. Not just the business, but the sense of confidence he once carried. The man spent the rest of his life haunted by the question, what if I had just started sooner? Brian shared a story too, one that cut even sharper. He spoke of people he met in fragile democracies, where waiting, even a day, could cost lives. In those places, he said, his voice heavy, the luxury of hitting snooze doesn't exist. If you don't act when injustice rises, it's not just your opportunity you lose, it's your freedom. The room fell silent. But silence has a way of pushing people toward truth. Anthony broke it with a thought that was as much a confession as it was advice. I used to chase big moments. Big wins. But I've learned life is made in the small decisions, whether you pick up the phone, whether you say yes when it's easier to say later, whether you stand up when sitting down feels safer. The snooze button isn't about sleep, it's about fear. Brian agreed. Exactly. Fear wears the mask of comfort. We convince ourselves we're resting. Boo.